Have you ever wanted to see the actual Sumerian translations that talk about this technology that Zechariah Sitchin mentions from the Sumerian myths? Well, tonight we will go into that. I've pulled and found evidence in those ancient Sumerian texts of godlike technology, which I'm calling the Technological Temple of Enki, aka Enki is the god of the Abzu, the abyss, who seems to be also the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Tonight we will also go over the location of the Garden of Eden. Right there, within it or next to it is this temple to Enki, which seems to be a piece of technology, a vehicle that's able to come up and out of the abyss, and it travels to Nibiru, which seems to be on the Euphrates River. And for some reason, Zechariah Sitchin thought it was a planet, and we'll go over how that's also a possibility with the angelic council of the gods representing those seven planets, and then other ones representing the stars, the god of the abyss, and so forth. And so, with that coming out of the abyss, we'll take a peek at modern day UFOs and those testimonies of them coming out of the water, aka the abyss. And we'll see once again those human serpent hybrids that are found in the same exact area as Enki's temple near the Garden of Eden, aka another link, another connection, another piece of evidence to the serpent seed theory of Eve and Satan. And if not her, then a few generations down by the time of Genesis 6. And we see those idols there, these human serpent idols that connects it all. So if you're interested in how these all connect, stay with me because I got an awesome episode for you tonight. God bless you. Let's go. And tonight I will show you the location of the Garden of Eden, the proximity of Enki's Technological Temple to the Garden of Eden, either within or right next to it, being on the Euphrates River. And I will show you advanced technology of the Anunnaki, especially or specifically a large technologically powered craft of Enki that stationed itself in or near the biblical Garden of Eden in the city of Eridu, which is where kingship descended from heaven before the flood. So from line 40 down is after the flood, before the flood, kingship came down from heaven into Eridu, which is the city of Enki and Enki's temple, and his temple built over the abyss. His son being a snake-like entity guarding the underworld, literally the serpent of the underworld, and it's seeming as Enki is like the serpent of the abyss. And so not only that technologically powered craft within a Sumerian mythology in cuneiform, and I'm going to show you in a scholarly translation of those cuneiform tablets, and we will go over this technological temple's possible relations to the modern UFOs coming out of the water, because that's what we're going to see in this cuneiform tablet that we're going to read. That's what we see with a lot of these UFOs coming up out of the water. And in my own life, me living on the water, in the wintertime, at nighttime, I have seen very interesting things over the water, dancing lights and such. In addition to that, we'll also look at the human serpent hybrid skeletons and figurines found in this same area. Yeah, this same area by the garden, next to, within the garden. I don't know yet for sure, but we're gonna zoom in on that. But it is that same area of Enki worship, that same city, that same temple, that same area. We're gonna see, which I've been popping up here, these frightening, horrifying skeletons of these serpent-human hybrids found in this area as well. So we got technology coming out of the water, the abyss, the god of the abyss, the god of those subterranean waters, his craft coming out of the waters, matching with modern day times, and all located at this the site of the Garden of Eden. And things are really being opened up to me by God. Thank God. So pray for me and my knowledge and wisdom and my ability to bring these episodes to you. And I pray that God blesses you and keeps you and gives you knowledge and wisdom and grows you in deep relationship with himself. And so with all that being said, I'm excited. Are you ready? Let's start the show. All right, so I got pulled up here a simple little Google search. So you see, type in temple to Enki. And it says here the main temple of Enki was located in ancient Sumerian, that city of Eridu, right? That city of Eridu, which in its ancient kings list, it descended from heaven into Eridu, right? So it's in that very, very ancient city, that very, very ancient area. And it's the first known temple in southern Iraq. That's saying a lot because this is the most ancient area that we really known as E-Abzu. So as we're going along, I'm going to give you a couple things that I know. So E means house, or like some temple means house, like the E-Ana is the house of heaven, the house of Ana, on being heaven. The Abzu, right? There's that means the deep, and Enki is the god of the Absu. So this is the house of the abyss. So what we're seeing here is in Eridu, where I'm going to show soon, located in or near the Garden of Eden, has this temple to the Absu, the subterranean deep waters. So in the founding city, we got the house of the abyss, also known as the house of subterranean waters. I'm going to be hitting on that a lot because this is an entity that's coming from the deep, something like that's going to be released in Revelation 9, the king of this abyss, the angel. The temple, already know that, is dedicated to Enki. He's a Sumerian god of wisdom, magic, creation, and fresh water. I do believe he is or is related to that serpent that was in the Garden of Eden, for sure. The studies I have are all over the place that tie little bits in. Can't get to all those, but it's really tying Enki in strongly. And then that location at the Garden of Eden that we're right about to jump into. Here's a hugely important part. Remember this, Ubaid period, right? This structure started in the early Ubaid period. So this structure, this worship of this god, it's what's initiated this Ubaid period. And what does that mean in regular language? Well, that's a good question because this is really far from regular. You tell me. This is the Ubaid figurines. This proves that something was happening at this temple to this serpent god of the abyss at the Garden of Eden. We see some quite terrifying entities. Okay, and some of them. So Chogamami, you see on the left here. If I can highlight that, yeah, that's going to be closer to Syria. And this, what we're showing that area in Iraq down by the Persian Gulf. So interesting little thing. Watch this. Search for these guys. Who are these guys? Are these guys found in Mesopotamia? No, they're bronze figures from the Shanjdui culture, an ancient Chinese civilization of the Bronze Age. Okay, so just immediately gets into more reptile. Children of the dragon, their kings were dragon kings and such, and that's what it looks like to me, and that's what the relation is. So you'll find this pattern all over. Okay, let's move along and show you the location of the Garden of Eden. So this is Eridu. This is the temple to Enki, and so when we zoom in on it, we'll start to get structure. So this is Tel Eridu. This is, protected by UNESCO. So as I zoom out of Eridu, right across the street, you see the length of 1 mile. That's about 2, 4, 5. That's about 5 or 6 miles to this little base right here. I was deployed to this base, Al Nasiriyah. It was called Cobb Adder, Adder, like the snake. At the time, we were the 345th cache, and we were operating out of here. And then you scroll in, and what's here? The Ziggurat of All right, and when you study that more, it's to the god of the abyss, because here he is, Eridu. That's literally a temple that was over the abyss, or the Absu. The area that those are contained in is all through Iraq. So, and then we'll get to the Garden of Eden location. So they're finding these things in here, this in Eridu where I just showed you. They found them further in northern Iraq, I believe. even as far as Erbil. But I know this area of for sure. Okay, and so this is the thing is the Genesis tells us that the Garden of Eden was located by four rivers, and we know two of them. You see my mouse right here, right above my head. That's the Tigris River. Okay, and it's going to be meeting with here the Euphrates River. Here we are. Here's right here, the Euphrates coming down. And so what you see this green spot right here, this is the intersection of the Tigris and the Euphrates. So highly possible location for the Garden of Eden. And so when you look, you'll see a river running down, and that river runs out all the way down over here. It is said, and they call it the river of Pishon, that goes through the land of Havilah, which was this area of Saudi Arabia. And there's rivers going north, so highly likely location in between two rivers. We have all the culture icons. So this is most likely the location for the Garden of Eden. As you see that giant river, that's a giant riverbed going out there. That's been dried out, and you'll see in the myths where that the gods were judged, or that the gods said that they were judging the citizens and they left the city and the city dried out. You'll see that in their cuneiform tablets. So these rivers dried out, and they did record that. Very interesting. E-Engura, so this we're going to see this a lot in this text, is E is once again the house, and Engur is the underground, the subterranean waters, not the ocean, the underground waters, like the waters under the earth, which is like literal abyss, like a deep layer of the abyss. And then, so this massive snake. Here we have Enki, this massive, most likely snake, down in the bottom of this abyss, underneath the earth there. Pull up a figure of the earth which shows the water underneath the terranean. Okay, and before I forget, one cool thing that we're going to see about this temple is that it's built on it's indicated that it's built on the top of the abyss, so it's the top level of the abyss, which is the surface. The same idea is that we're the bottom layer of the heavens, right? So the heavens go all the way down to the ground. The underworld goes all the way up to the ground, or the surface, right? So let's check it out, this technological temple of Enki. So the stuff you guys been waiting for. So Nibiru isn't really coming up like a planet, but I'll let you interpret that and see what you think about that, because that's what Zechariah Stitchin said. I don't really follow along with what he was saying. It does seem like there is the technology is coming up out of the water. I don't really see it as coming from different planets, but then once again, I don't read Sumerian cuneiform or logograms or anything of that nature. So let's dive into this awesome subject. And those, so I'm going to read it to you, let you form your opinion. I'll throw mine in there a little bit, and then we're going to read a scholarly article on this that really points to some cool stuff. Let's get it. In those remote days, when the fates were determined, a year when On brought about abundance, and people broke through the earth like herbs and plants. And people broke through the earth like herbs and plants. Then the Lord of the Abzu, King Enki the Lord who determines the fates, built up his temple entirely from silver and lapis lazuli. Its silver and lapis lazuli were the shining daylight. Into the shrine of the Abzu he brought joy. So he's building this temple, and it's entirely made from a metal, and it's a blue metal. An artfully made bright crenellation, which is like the battlements on top of a castle, where it goes up, like little squares, so you can shoot arrows out of it. And so that was rising out from the Abzu, erected for Lord Enki. That's another name for Enki there, Nudimud. He built the temple from precious metals, decorated it with lapis lazuli, which is the color blue, and covered it abundantly with gold. In Eridu, he built the house on its banks. Okay, and here's where we start getting interesting. It's brickwork. So he just said he made it all with metal. So it's metal brickwork, because they don't have words like that. It makes utterances and gives advice. So the metal panels of this temple that are blue make utterances, noises, and they give advice. Its eaves, the eaves, which is like the overhang, roar like a bull. So the temple of Enki bellows, which sounds like a machine. During the night, the temple praises its Lord and offers its best for him. Very interesting. Before the Lord, Isimud, which is his minister, his servant kind of thing, they call it a sukal, he praises the temple. He goes to the temple and speaks to it. He goes to the brick building and addresses it. So remember, the brick isn't the what it's made of, it's how it's built, how he thinks it's built, right? Because they weren't building, they weren't working with metal like this then. And he addresses it. Temple built from precious metal and lapis lazuli, whose foundation pegs are driven into the Abzu, which has been cared for by the prince in the Abzu, like the Tigris and the Euphrates. It is mighty and awe-inspiring. Joy has been brought into Enki's Abzu. Your lock has no rival. Your bolt is a fearsome lion. Your roof beams are the bowl of heaven, an artfully made bright headgear. Your reed mats are like lapis lazuli decorating the roof beams. Your vault is a bull raising its horns. Your door is a lion who seizes a man. Your staircase is a lion coming down on a man. The deep, Abzu, pure place which fulfills its purpose. E-Engura, so that means the house, the temple of the underground waters. Your Lord directed his steps towards you, Enki, Lord of the Abzu. He established your foundation pegs with cornelian. It is a bowl. The temple is provisioned with holy wax. It is a bowl obedient to its master, roaring by itself and giving advice at the same time. So it's making sounds by itself, it's talking by itself. And Enki has surrounded it with a holy fence. In the midst, a lofty throne is erected. Your door jamb is the holy locking bar of heaven. This is really interesting. Abzu, pure place where the fates are determined, the Lord of wisdom, Lord Enki. Nudimmud, the Lord of Eridu. He doesn't let anybody look into its mist. Your Abgal, which is the Apkallu, the 7 Apkallu of Enki, those priests, they let their hair down their backs. Enki's beloved city, Eridu. E-Engura, whose inside is full of abundance. It's the life of the land. It's built on the edge of the abyss in the land, befitting his artful divine powers. And so this temple, its shadow extends over the midst of the sea. It makes the sea rise without a rival. It terrifies a high citadel. It stands firm at the edge of the subterranean river, in the midst of the deep, lofty temple of Enki. That's crazy. And then right here, it artfully built mountain which floats on the water. The fish rise before him like waves. So when he moves this temple, it moves the ocean. And so you see like this connection between the God itself, the temple, and the city. It's like the city's a mistranslation for this massive moving temple that's built and floats on the water. It instills fear. It departs on its own accord. Its tow ropes hold itself. As he leaves the temple, the river gurgles. Its sound is a calf mooing. The mooing of a good calf. That's insanity. So Enki has slaughtered, and so this is him going to Nibiru. And so Nibiru is supposedly on the Euphrates River, Nippur. And I showed that in my last episode. It's kind of close and similar to the Mount Olympus, the Garden of the Gods, Mount Olympus type setting, and it's on the Euphrates River. So I think Zecharia Sitchin may have been off by it being a planet, but the thing is that these are stars and powers of stars. Enki literally is Aquarius. He's Aquarius. He's like the watcher pourer. Those two flows of water coming out of him and his symbols and pictures. It's the same as Aquarius pouring out. So you see it's technological. Let's go ahead and open this guy's great article and see what we can pull out. So I just kind of wanted to fly through that and let you guys think of it and look upon it yourselves, come with your own conclusion. And so this guy's kind of confirms and goes right along with what in the way I feel. And so we're going to go into that now. It opens up some really awesome um, possibilities. So let's dive in. This is E-Engura, a myth or reality, and this is on academia.edu. A scribe who does not know how to grasp the meaning, from where will he produce a translation? Sumerian proverb. It's one of the most puzzling and least explored phenomena in ancient Mesopotamia is this temple, is this building. In scholarly literature, E-Engura is regarded as a mythological temple built by the Sumerian god of wisdom and fresh water Enki at Eridu. The temple of Enki at Eridu was also known as E-Abzu, i.e. a house situated in the Abzu, which is that vast pool of fresh groundwater. And I wanted to give you guys an idea of what the Abzu is and was to these people, because it was a big question in my mind. I keep having to ask it. I'm like, I need to make sure what this Abzu is. It's definitely deep underground waters, right? It's not just this surface level. And so ChatGPT is helping me out on this one. And it's layered with religious, cosmological, and symbolic meaning. So Abzu is more than just the above ground water. So it's conceived as a vast subterranean or below the earth body of fresh water, the source of all springs, rivers, wells, and life-giving waters on the surface. In Sumerian cosmology, the earth floated on this great deep, much like how the heavens were upheld by the primeval waters above. So the heavens are upheld by the firmament we know in the Bible. So it was not only a geophysical reservoir, but a cosmic ocean beneath the land, distinct from the salty sea. So that, yeah, the firmament separated the Tiamat, which is the waters above, from the waters beneath. And these are fresh waters of the Abzu, and it's considered masculine, and the salt water is considered feminine with Tiamat. And his throne was on the Abzu, making him the lord of those subterranean waters. And as we look at that icon there, we see how deep those waters are underneath the earth. So a place where the gods convened, and how heaven was the court of Anu. Highly unusual attributes of Engura in Sumerian narratives are routinely explained as a mythic or metaphorical representation of a shrine that existed at Eridu and formed a nucleus of that city that dated to about 5300 BC and existed till 2000 BC, and it ended at the end of an age, which is quite interesting, because as we're coming on the age of Aquarius here, that features advanced technologies, including that temple, like I was just showing you, and that we argue that Eridu is real, that the Garden of Eden is real, that there's a reason that there's this ziggurat to a underground serpent right located by the Garden of Eden. And we know that from Genesis 3. But let's keep reading this gentleman's article. According to the narrative itself, the events took place in extremely ancient times at the very dawn of Sumerian civilization, and possibly not long after the kingship descended from heaven and the first cities were established. The temple is said to be built in those remote days when the fates were determined, in a year when An brought about abundance and people broke through the earth like green plants. The phrase "when fates were determined" is identical to that in Enki and Ninmah, a composition describing the times when the great gods themselves had to carry the work because people had not been created. In those days when heaven and earth were created, in those nights, in the night when heaven and earth were created, in those years, in the years when the fates were determined, when the Anuna gods were born. The author identifies the year when the temple was built as a year when An brought about abundance, i.e. when people created by the gods began to multiply. And it says, Genesis 6, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, the sons of God saw the children, the daughters of men, and took them. And that time frame was when men began to multiply on the face of the earth. Therefore, it may be plausible to assume that the events described in Enki's journey to Nibiru took place at the very dawn of Sumerian civilization, shortly after gods, according to Sumerian tradition, created people to relieve themselves of their hard labor. So look at something I found very interesting. The material of the temple. The most striking feature of the temple or the house of god Enki is that it was built entirely from silver and lapis lazuli, which were like the shining daylight. Enki, the lord who determines the fates, built up his temple entirely from silver and lapis lazuli, and it shone like the shining daylight. And it's unusual at that period of time to have a building made of metal, because the Sumerians didn't know any materials except for mud bricks, clay, or reeds. And so that's why you see them when they say, "Oh, it's metal and it's made in brickwork," because they didn't have any word for metal working. They didn't work in metal. These little g gods worked in metal. And as we scroll down here, we see that this word "kug" is known to have the values or to be used as this. Metal can be used to say metal, used to say silver, bright, shiny, pure. Therefore, it can be translated alternatively as precious metal, shining metal, or silver. But when you come down here, Samuel Kramer, this guy's a genius in this field, he translated this out of the myths of Enki. Enki, Lord who decrees the fates, built of silver and lapis lazuli blended as one, his house. So they're one. So when you see blended as one, it implies that the temple was built from a single material, a shining metal whose color resembled lapis lazuli. And do you recall hearing where lapis lazuli was used as well in the Bible? Crazy enough. So under the Lord's feet, the firmament is lapis lazuli, so it's the color of the firmament. And the likeness of the throne is like lapis lazuli. And so, very interesting. We have this entity in a powered ship with a throne on it, and the color of it is the color of the firmament, or the color of the throne. Here it is. If you want to check these out, a few ways that it's also used within Sumerian. Also described as the temple at the edge of the E-Engura, a lion in the midst of the E-Abzu, lofty temple of Enki, which bestows wisdom on the land. So this thing is connected to wisdom. The location is hardly suitable for a temple, especially back then, when they're just playing with mud and reeds. And like the last two episodes I showed, the Sumerians were eating with their hands when the god Enlil came through, whoever that gentleman is. Okay, and so for these reasons, Samuel Kramer appropriately refers to this temple E-Engura as a sea house, because it's identified as floating, a mountain floating on the water. As it has been built, as Enki has raised Eridu up, and it keeps tying in what we think is a city with the temple itself. So it's like the city and the temple are one in some kind of ways. Let me know what you think on that. It's an artfully built mountain which floats on the water. So massive thing floating on the water. And here we have it found in other, so ETCSL, very, very good for finding all this stuff in Sumerian mythology. And you can see there where you find it as well. Eridu floating on the waters. It's a house of prince power. It gives power. It stands in the mighty water. And then so if you get carried away thinking when it talks about embellishing the foundation pegs with cornelian, and we saw cornelian in our last episode as well, this dark reddish brown color. And so it doesn't mean that it has a foundation into the ground. It just means that's the level, the layer that you can see above the water, which would be the foundation, is this cornelian color. The temple is further compared to an intricate bright metal kug, a crenulation, or a crown. Okay, so just like the battlement, like I said, the castle, the castle goes like that square, so you can shoot your arrows and stuff through. That's also the crown. Okay, so the crown on top of the castle. Very interesting how these words play together. So now we're once again going to start seeing a transition of this place from being above ground and its association and nearness to the Garden of Eden, and both of these places disappearing. And if you want to read that right there, we've already went over that. Bring out the seven sages. They're of Enki, or at least Enki's assistants. At that time, the one of great wisdom, the creator of the senior gods, little g, Enki was laying on his bed, not waking up, in deep sleep, in the subterranean waters, the place, the inside of which no other god knows. Kind of ringing a bell to the god in the Indian Mahabharatas that lays on the serpent on the waters and is asleep. Who's that? Vishnu, right? According to this myth, Enki resides in there with his entourage, and you see him in that, and that usually is defining Enki. And on his sides, you see what look like giants, look like Gilgamesh, Enkidu type characters, minus they have what seem to be human feet. So we're just going to the fact that he's given this special place, this special temple that goes into the ground, into the abyss of the waters, and is able to rise back out, and would rise out constantly in this city of Eridu, which was on the Euphrates River, and where the obviously the Garden of Eden was. And there is Enki, once again on the right, speaking to two other little g gods with their little horns on their head. And now here's where we see that this temple is moving. When Enki rises, the fish rise before him like waves. To reach the shore, Enki uses a vessel that moves of its own accord. The ship departs of its own accord with tow ropes held by itself. As he leaves the temple of Eridu, the river gurgles to its lord. Its sound is a calf's mooing, the mooing of a good cow. And so you got this good cow mooing at you, okay, and it's moving on its own accord. As he leaves the temple, the river gurgles. So he's moving wake, and it's moving and mooing like a cow. So when we have a group set of people who are eating grass with their hands, this is how they talk about ancient technology. And I'm crazy enough to say that Ancient Aliens is right in some aspect, minus the fact that they refuse to acknowledge that God, Jesus Christ, the Bible, is still what points out and what's true in all of this. And we got to figure out who this dude Enki is, because I think he's like Quetzalcoatl, Viracocha. You got the seven Apkallu who went and created cultures, and you got him riding around on this technological boat, going to the deep, going across oceans, and you question, how did some god, little g, get to Peru and teach them the same? Why in Mexico is there ziggurat pyramids over the abyss, the cenotes, in which they worship the god of the subterranean waters, to them called Tlaloc? And as we continue and see what this gentleman thinks of it, he says the lines confirm the concept that Enki's abode was situated in the water and apparently at some distance from the shore, because Enki needs a boat to reach the shore. So what he's seeing here is this temple out in the middle of the E-Abzu, which is the upwelling at the part where it's the upwelling of the fresh water into the Garden of Eden area. That fresh water, that spring, was cursed and cut off by God, so that's now all a dry desert. So the way this gentleman is framing it is that there's the temple in the middle of this basically freshwater marsh, right? And we see that it's able to move. It's built out of a metal, a blue metal that's able to speak. The outside is able to speak. The inside is confusing to this Sumerian, doesn't understand it. No one's allowed to even look in it through this reed fence, which actually means a metallic fence, as we'll see here. So this gentleman has that temple there, and what he's seeing here is a little boat going to and from that temple, and then also being powered. So the temple being able to speak for itself, answer questions move on its own accord. Now we have, so just like today, you got a big cruise ship, and then what? You got little wave runners, whatever you need, little dinghies to get to and from shore. On the other hand, the words Euphrates River rises before him as it does before the fierce south wind, which may imply that the boat could move at considerable speed. The words that Enki's vessel departs of its own accord and produces loud noise, like we were talking about, resembling the mooing of a cow, which strongly associates a powered vessel. Moo, that's an engine moving at higher revs. Once you get a, okay. And so either way, whether this is some little dingy wave runner craft, however you want to imagine it, or the temple itself moving, okay, that he's making the river move, the river water rises as he's moving, as he rises up out of it or through it, the water is moving its way. It's like at the fierceness when he wants to of the south wind, which means that it's moving here fiercely fast, considerable speed, moving wake, moving fish. And then other puzzling features of the temple's giving advice. It's talking. Now that it's roaring like a bull, and it's praising its Lord Enki. It's brickwork, which is just the way the metal is stacked, so it's stacked metal like brick. Okay, that is what's giving utterance and speaking and giving advice. So these panels of this metallic temple that today we know can do that, however many 6,000 years later, we know that's a possibility. But here the little cheat gods are with this technology, while humans, and whether that was children of Adam and Eve, or whether this was children of the serpent and the line of Cain and such, or whether this was the Genesis 1 creation versus Genesis 2 creation. Okay, and what do I mean by that is, this generation that was eating with their hands and wasn't really intelligent, didn't know its left hand from its right hand. And either way, the temple is singing songs at night, and saying, like, what has he got? AI chat GPT on this thing? Probably something even more powerful. It's obedient to him. I mean, something is if you're the one rowing, I guess it's obedient to your rowing, but obedience is more like you saying something by itself, right? You saying something and it doing it by itself. That's more obedience. Obedience, you don't say the boat's obedient to you because you're literally paddling it. Well, I mean, of course. But when you tell it to move and it's roaring by itself and giving advice by itself at the same time, that is definitely pointing to a high level of technology. So the ability of E-Engura to issue not just the loud noise, but also utter meaningful phrases or even give advice are very enigmatic. The author is clearly bewildered at these abilities of Enki's house and is puzzled by the inability to understand the phenomena. This gentleman is seeking a plausible explanation, referring to the speaking temple as an interesting phenomena. He doesn't want to literally interpret the line. Is an obvious attempt to avoid literal interpretation of that line. And then we have this two-faced, double-faced like Janus, okay, Isamud, the vizier or attendant of Enki, goes to the temple and talks to the temple, and the temple talks back, right? And here's what we've already read that. And then here's some more interesting stuff. So he suggests that Isamud's account of the temple is partly corroborated by the archaeological evidence. And so we literally have, like, there's a city temple that would lead into this freshwater floating temple that was over the abyss, right? So in the landlocked portion, the land part of the city, there was a temple. And then in there we have that lion, right? It's roaring by itself. The doorway, threshold, stairway is as a lion. It's undoubtedly a striking and factual description of the Lion of Eridu uncovered in 1947. So in this very city, you can type in the Lion of Eridu, and here they indeed found it. This double-faced line of Eridu leading up to that basically port of Enki's Technological Temple. And continuing reading on, it says here, however, it is quite possible and likely that the architectural features in the temple ruins that were excavated by Al-Fuadi belonged to a temple known as E-Engura, which is a ziggurat house. So they didn't find this temple that was built with metal, but they did find a temple that was built with brick, which would have been done by the humans, right? Which is a topmost monumental temple found at Eridu in the form of a ziggurat. So in temple hymns, E-Engura is referred to as a banqueting hall of Eridu, so a place where they go to eat, the house of the holy mound, a ziggurat where pure food is eaten, and as we'll see there, that we got them fish giving fish offerings and then eating fish there. So thus it seems unlikely that the features of Enki's floating sea house that's metal and speaks and talks and is powered, okay, that's not the same thing as a literal brick building sitting on the side there. So leaving aside the metaphorical allusions, we note that E-Engura features a lock, a roof, roof beams, reed mats, vaults, a door, and a stairway surrounded by that holy reed fence. Okay, that word holy, once again, is the word kug, which is metallic. So a metallic reed fence. Right, and holy because like in the book of Daniel, the gold, silver, bronze, so metallic lines up to angelic kingdom, and when it says iron shall attempt to mingle with clay, that means the angels attempting to mingle with man at the end of the age, and that metallic being the point is that metallic points to God and then his hierarchy, gold and silver, and so we have that fence, and it's not a reed fence, it's a metallic fence covering the inside of his temple where not many people are allowed to see. And then, so, and even with that, in that Enki's Journey to Nibiru, it only has, this is all it talks about, the inside of the temple is that lofty throne. The crazy thing about this lofty throne in this temple is it's built the same color as the throne of God and the firmament that God's feet sits on. And then so God is at the top limit of heaven looking down, and this entity is at the top looking of the Abzu. Okay, so we have like the inverse of God, and that's what I want to do. My next episode on is going to be this other craft that lines up with looking like, Ezekiel 1 and 10, God riding the cherubim on his throne with firmament at his feet and firmament on the throne. Okay, and then tie that into the other stuff I found about the tree in the Garden of Eden, which is this next section that we're not going to get to today, but I want that to be episode number 2 that I'm going to hopefully be able to start shooting today. Okay, so though we don't find a lot about this throne in Enki's Journey to Nibiru, we can go to another story of Enki within. So this is all the Sumerian cuneiform translated in here. Very good site. Type that in, type in Enki, start reading these things. You'll start seeing that this is an actual story. So here is more details from the interior of this shrine. Let's go ahead and read. From Enki and the World Order. The Lord established a shrine, a holy shrine, whose interior is elaborately constructed. He established a shrine in the sea, a holy shrine, whose interior is elaborately constructed. The shrine whose interior is a tangled thread beyond understanding. The shrine's emplacement is situated by the constellation, the field. So here's where we start to get into, God's thrown up in the heaven, and this dude over on the Abzu, and these, just like the pyramids of Giza, lines up with Orion's belt. Here we have this shrine being situated according to the constellation, the field, and the holy upper shrine emplacement faces towards another constellation. Okay? And I have to apologize. I have a very old dog, a Boston Terrier. Every time I record, he's in the background making weird sounds. He's going blind and deaf, and he's always drinking or his water for 5 minutes or snoring. Lord help us. But anyway, so back to this craziness. Okay, it's beyond understanding. Its emplacement is the temple is situated according to what's in the heavens. So as above, so below. And the upper shrine is according to this chariot constellation. The sea, the waters of this temple is a rising wave. Its splendor is fearsome. So there it is again, that it makes it moves the waters. The Enuna gods dare not approach it. To refresh their hearts, the palace rejoices. The Enuna stand by with prayers and supplication. They set up a great altar for Enki and the E-Engura for the Lord, the great prince, the pelican of the sea. And he agrees with me that these references relating to the interior are difficult to reconcile with the idea that the temple is only a product of the imagination. The text looks like a witness account where the witness admits his inability to understand what he is describing. This is a more plausible explanation than the one where the writer is unable to understand what he himself contrived. Amen. And so that finishes this portion. In my next episode, I want to get into tying it in to the Mies tree, the ME, which are the Mies of power that were passed on or stolen from Enki by Inanna when she got him drunk and had a little relationship with him. And then she took some of these godlike powers, which might be the beginning of the serpent seed. This might be the beginning of the Nephilim infiltration. Children of Enki. One of his children is Inkishita, which is the snake guardian of hell, or the underworld. So we're going to get into that in the next episode, and then pondering and thinking upon what this throne, this supernatural or technological throne of the God of the abyss, in comparison to the throne of the God of heaven, who is Jesus Christ, who is Yahweh Elohim, and this gentleman here would be an Elohim, an under God, okay, a little g God under the Lord Jesus Christ for sure. But let's take a look at, if you want with me, at the temple in Mexico, Chichen Itza. We'll do a quick little overview. It is sitting over a cenote. It is literally a ziggurat pyramid, just like Enki's in that I was in Iraq. It's a ziggurat pyramid, and it is built over the Abzu in Samaria. It's built over the abyss. So we're looking at the one that's floating on the abyss. But if we look at the one also that was built by Marduk, Isagila, which was built in next to the Tower of Babel. Okay, let's pull that up. He built that. Isagila, he built that to worship Enki. Okay. That ziggurat Entomonaki right here, that's the Tower of Babel. This is what we're looking at here above my head, that temple, and it's going to be over the abyss. And we're going to really quickly tie that into Mexico, Chichen Itza, to the god of subterranean waters, Tlaloc, also the god of rain. Same exact entity, I do believe, or one of the Apkala that he sent out, one or the other. Okay, over the abyss. Both of these are step pyramids built over the fresh waters of the deep. Okay, and they worship serpentine gods. Enki, serpent, his child, a literal serpent that guards the gates of hell. Okay, you want to read that through, but I just want to quickly go through this. So that temple built over the abyss, and we'll type in Chichen Itza. Okay. There's Chichen Itza. That step pyramid, right? You can't argue that that's a step pyramid. Definitely a step pyramid. Okay, and you look up Chichen Itza over a cenote, and it is over the cenote. I've been here. There's a very sacred cenote. There's multiple cenotes here. Okay. For rituals and sacrifices to the Mayan rain god Chak. Okay, who's also Tlaloc. Okay, it's the god of the abyss, the god of this fresh water underneath. And so we literally have the same exact story, okay, of this serpent god. We got a flying serpent god. The whole Um, the whole staircase of Chichen Itza. Look at this. I got really cool pictures of me standing next to this guy too, holding his tongue. I was holding that serpent's tongue. Okay, dedicated to serpents, and then they did rituals to sacrifice to the god. In here, underneath that pyramid temple is water. They also found mercury and then water. Okay, and we have the dragon coming down out of heaven. So twice a year at the solstice and the equinox, I think it's the equinoxes, that these staircases right here, okay, that it shows a dragon shadow coming down the staircase. Okay, and it shows a dragon coming down from heaven. Then you have the dragon of the abyss beneath. And there we go. We just tied it into Enki.
Go.
Right here, I can hear the sound, but once you step right here, yeah, I can't hear it. Awesome.
Crazy.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys learned something, got something out of it. Let me know if you have any comments, questions, recommendations for further study, further episodes. I'm going to try to, once again, because God always just takes me where he wants me to study on, do this next episode once again on this same idea. So if you guys enjoy this, please check out my Patreon, Sword of the Word. I'm going to have a link right here at the end. You can click on it. That makes it easier. A link in the description. I do have a few more episodes that I do not have on YouTube there. I'm trying to put more there. Once again, though, I am doing 50 hours of construction every week. And even as I'm sitting here right now, even though I look muscular, like I'm tired, I got a day off, and I'm going to put 9-10 hours into this. So I'd appreciate you coming and checking me out on Patreon. I would appreciate your support. You can get the videos for free or $8 to help me out in my ministry out. You know, God is good and God provides for it. But if you'd like to bless me, please do. And yeah, let me know what you think. God bless you. God bless your week. God bless your understanding. The Lord be with you, and keep your head up. All this craziness is for a reason. We're coming to the end. Keep your eyes on Jesus Christ. I love you. Until next time, peace.